Yo, Mike, you want to race?
Oh shit! Don't do sprints after doing legs. You want to tear your hamstring or your entire body? Go do some sprints after legs.
Fuck.
What is up? It's your boy Johnny Shreve, IFBB Pro, Mr. Telic. It is today, guys. We're coaching up the Tren twins yet again. This time, these guys are going Super Saiyan. It's literally called going Super Saiyan. Old video, guys, but again, you literally cannot overdo leg training videos. Why? Everyone can optimize their leg training, especially going into 2025. Now, if you go into 2025 with the Tren twins energy, you're gonna dominate the world. You're gonna absolutely dominate and kill it. You're actually gonna get the worst amount of DOMs, and the next time you'll be in the gym will probably be 2 weeks later, and you'll be sore as hell, and probably by then you'll end up quitting. Part of my top 10 tips of 2025 of things we need to do, ease into it. So we're gonna ease into these techniques, get back to the basics, get you guys to understand how to do these exercises the most optimal way. When you get the basics down, then you can go from there. And you guys, we're gonna coach up Romanian deadlifts, hack squats, leg curls, and leg extensions. Let's get into it.
Man, there ain't nothing like fucking deadlifting. Every time you get up there, you want to do it again. Like, I don't know why. Like, my lower back is killing me, but I need another fucking rep.
I have a little hunch of why his back might be killing him. Hunch. That's why their back hurts. That is why, oh, okay. Cosplay is good. I'm giving the cosplay. The hair's not dyed, so we're only getting a 9 out of these two guys here. Form, I'm giving it like a 6. You know why? Because they're not really hitting the hamstrings and glutes as good as they possibly can. They're doing some great back extension exercises. So guys, check it out. We're gonna go to the lab right now. I'm gonna teach you guys how to do proper Romanian deadlifts. Let's go.
Okay, so doing Romanian deadlifts, guys, a couple of things we want to understand is lowering the weight is by our butt going back, not our back just doing this. So most time when people are doing deadlifts or Romanian deadlifts, number one they do is they get to here and then there's kind of lowering it like this. And this is basically just a back extension. We want to make the hamstrings actually work for Romanian deadlift. We want to make sure that same fundamentals for doing a deadlift. Walk up to the bar, right? Whether it's kind of over your shoelaces or touching your shins is completely fine. Your feet need to be a little bit of shoulder width apart. You can go a little outside shoulder width apart, which is completely fine, but whatever's comfortable for you. And then we're going to lower ourselves down. I'm going to push my butt back. My chest is going to stay up. I'm going to push my butt back. You see how my shins didn't move? This is just to pick the weight up, just like if we were doing an actual conventional deadlift. From here, shoulder gonna be depressed, or pretend someone's tickling your armpits. So kind of do this right here, pushing the floor, sit your butt back, chest up, and pull yourself up. Now that from here, lowering the weight is gonna come from my butt going back. So when my butt's going back, a couple of things are happening. My toes are gripping into the floor to keep my balance, but to keep steady tension through my entire foot, not just my heels, my foot. I don't wanna do this kind of stuff. I want my toes to grip into the floor, and I'm pushing my butt back to keep my chest up, chin tucked. Once I pass those knees, I can bend the knees a little bit more. But this is what I wanna create tension in my hamstrings. If we can touch the floor, good. But this is still an RDL. This would be a deadlift. This would be the difference between an RDL and a deadlift, just like that. Making it to the floor requires your butt to keep traveling back, bending a bit, nice and tight in the hamstrings, and coming back up. Butt's heading back, moving back, continues pushing back, and then hips forward. So when you're doing deadlifts, don't think about just lowering from your waist. We want your hip to actually turn over, your pelvis to end up looking this way. Too many times we get to here and then we're just kind of bending the back this way. And you might feel some hamstring pull there, mainly because you're probably just tight and not flexible. Keeping your core engaged so our back isn't taking so much of the tension. That's going to give us the most amount of tension in our hamstrings and make this a more optimal hamstring exercise for RDLs. Remember, it's a hamstring glute exercise, not a back exercise.
All right, guys, there you have it. That is the way you want to make sure you're hinging when you're doing Romanian deadlifts so you can get the most out of your hamstrings and your glutes. More glutes, little ham, either way, it's not a back exercise. Take those tips and cues and optimize your RDLs. Let's keep going. This Cybex machine I've used at my gym and it's freaking hard. It's a good machine, it's a dope machine. It's pretty brutal on your legs, to be honest. Like, you gotta get a really good positioning on the machine. So when it comes to like any type of hack squat machine, it's gonna be different for a lot of people. Their body's gonna be different, number one. Two, might just be the actual machine that's different as well too. So you gotta play around with foot positioning. Either way, when you're doing hack squats, making sure that we get a good amount of knee over toe, because this is primarily going to be a quad exercise. We're gonna get some glutes in there as well too, because we're getting hip flexion and extension. Loading this and doing it properly to get a lot of quads in this is key, and foot positioning is key. So when it comes down to it, what I like about these guys, we're getting all the way down. What I not like about it, they kind of like the bounce and recoil. To me, that looks like your knees at the bottom are just being like, you know, just like they're getting jammed at the bottom, right? Is that like bouncing, going down and up? What I coach when people are doing hack squats or literally any exercise is literally this.
All right, guys, if you're really trying to maximize doing hack squats properly, I like to give you an analogy with the elevator analogy. And that's like with all movements in terms of like lowering the weight, but more so when you're doing like hack squat, it applies even more. And what I mean by that is, imagine you're sitting on a elevator and you're on the top floor and then it was like, right? Your stomach would be like in your throat. You'd be throwing up. You'd be like complaining to the manager about why your elevator just drops from floor 10 to floor 1. We want to make sure that we're lowering this with intention. Again, and getting the most amount of knee flexion out of this because we want to get the most amount of quads out of this movement, as well as glutes as well too. But this is primarily going to smack the heck out of our quads. So again, when it comes to placement, so feet could be the same way placed where they were when you're squatting, a little bit outside shoulder apart, and then having your knees, having your toes around, like say like right foot it's at 1 o'clock and left foot's at like 11 o'clock, and externally rotating our hips so our knees stay aligned with our toes the entire time. We don't want them to be like this or too far out like this. We want to make sure that they're aligned the entire time, coming down, controlling the weight, and driving up. Now, when you're doing this, again, when we're talking about like lowering the weight, what I like to do is, number one, instead of having your hands like this and pulling the weight down, which we don't want, right? Treat this almost like a goblet squat or a front squat. Having your hands inside here and engaged is gonna keep our torso under control much more and sturdy, having our back on the back plate of this machine. So being here is better for you than being like this. Engaging my core, and then when I'm lowering the weight at a consistent, steady decline. So it'll be, right? If you bottom out, we can put some pads here to give you a lot much more range of motion. But again, even if we do bottom out, we want to do this on the way to the bottom and control that. Even if I hit the bottom, I'm not smacking it. And that's going to make the set that much harder because we're under control. So again, externally rotating the hips so our knees stay aligned with our toes. Hands stay inside like this, and then lower the weight for at least like 2 seconds. 1001, 1002, right? Push. 1001, 1002, down, push, right? Don't just drop on the way down. That's how most people end up being like, my knees hurt really bad because you're just dropping. Lower through your quads and your hips. Your butt's gonna sit back, your knees are gonna go forward. This is gonna go down, sturdy, straight, consistent, and then driving up and squeezing the top, and then controlling the weight down again, all the way here, and then up while our hands are inside like this. Don't be the crappy elevator at the ghetto hotel that's just dropping like this and then coming back up. Because just doing it that fast, I'm feeling all the weight in my knees and not my glutes and not my quads. My glutes and my quads to feel this weight on the way down, and not my knees taking the ballisticness of this just dropping out of nowhere. Control the weight and get the most out of this exercise.
So make sure you guys take those tips when you're doing some hack squats. Now let's see what they're doing when they're doing seated hamstring curls. As much as they might seem like they're just like, you know, just going in there and just like smashing weight around, just gripping and ripping. Most of the time when bodybuilders are gripping and ripping, they're intentional about it. They're controlling the actual speed. I'd say most of the time, they're controlling the speed, but to the naked eye, to the viewer like yourself watching, you think it's just like, yank. It might seem that way. People might watch that and be like, I gotta do what he's doing. If I want big ass hamstrings like whatever Tren twin this is, you know what I mean? You might think you have to do it like that. And then you do it like that, and then you don't get the most out of it. So again, we wanna slow things down, understand getting the full range of motion, be intentional with the full range of motion. We're trying to develop that muscle-mind connection. The muscle-mind connection is gonna happen when we slow things down. Then when we're used to slowing things down, know what it feels like, then we can kind of speed things up. So let's go back to the lab and coach you up on some seated hamstring curls.
Okay guys, so obviously some mistakes that they're making when they're doing seated leg curls, which is like most people do when they do seated leg curls. And it's very easy to do that same mistake. And number one is basically not setting up properly and not having this down far enough. And then we kind of have like this thing where we're kind of doing this, right? And if we're trying to maximize muscle growth when it comes to our hamstrings, especially in this machine, we want to stretch the heck out of our hamstrings. So just put it this way, when we're doing like, if we're sitting on the ground with a flat back, if I roll my back, I can touch my toes. If I straight my back out, that gets a lot tighter. And that sensation I feel in the back of my legs, I want to replicate that in this machine. And this machine allows us to do that, opposed to doing, say, a lying hamstring curl. When you are setting yourself up, make sure you set the back part up far enough that we get some like, you know, some clearance of your knee coming underneath. We don't want it so far back that we're getting disrupted here, and we don't want it so far forward that half our butt's sitting off of the machine. So if anything, give yourself like almost like a hand length from the back of your hamstring or under your knee, about a hand length. So if you want to do that, easy, find your seat, set it back a bit, and right here, I have a good enough amount of space. Now from here, I want to make sure that this is sitting on top of my knees and then pushing this down hard enough so that it's going to lock me in. You want this thing super tight, so there's almost tension on this right away. So at the start of this exercise, I got a nasty stretch already. Now, if I want to make this stretch even more, sitting back like this isn't going to stretch my hamstring that much. If I pull myself a little more straighter or like swing my back up a little more, I'm going to have a lot of stretch on the back of my hamstring. And you can easily like put like a piece of foam behind your back just to kind of keep yourself upright more. Now, you can do this if you want to, but I'll kind of add that in the end. Just for you guys starting off, this is make sure we get the basics down first so we're getting the most out of this exercise. So again, setting yourself up, a little more clearance in the back of our leg, about like a hand length of clearance behind our knee, setting this up so it's nice and tight on our knees, nice posture upright from here. And then we're gonna pull the back of our ankles or the back of our heel and pulling underneath. And want to pull right underneath and squeeze here, right? Now you can do this if you want to, but that's not gonna do much to your hamstrings. If you look at my hamstring right now, it's fully engaged here. What's important is that we get out with control back to that stretched position, right? And hopefully your machine doesn't bottom out. And if it does, we can correct that by putting something underneath our ankles here to give us a little more stretch at the top, so we're not bottoming out every time we do our rep, right? I wanna feel pressure against the back while like I'm pushing still while I'm stretched from here. Nice pause for a second, and then underneath again, then control it up, stretch, pull, right? And if you need a little more leverage, we can still do this and push in here and do this, and we're gonna get that much more of a little bit of contraction at the top. But again, the important thing is that we get the full range from here, controlling the weight all the way out, a nice stretch from here, whether you're back like this or up like this with a straight back, or if you're curved like this, we wanna make sure that we're nice and straight here. The hamstrings are flexed and stretched in this position, fully engaged, and then continue rep like this. So don't bypass and just start doing this. Doing this is equivalent of doing the top part of a bicep curl and just doing this.
All right, hope you enjoyed those hamstring curls. Apply those hamstring curl tips the next time you do see the hamstring curls if you have them at machine, and reap the benefits. Remember, you want to feel everything. You want to use that almost like you can feel a good stretch and to feel a great contraction. We want to stretch out that elastic and then shorten it, stretch it and shorten it. Not like semi-stretch it and then semi-shorten it. I'm talking like stretch and shorten it, and you'll grow even better. Let's keep going all the way down to these leg extensions. What are some good things we're getting here? They're doing a little technique where they're leaning back, right? Leaning back on the machine, having a little more incline is gonna give us a little more hip extension. We'll get a lot more out of that exercise by being back a little bit. Now, again, when you're doing that, we still need to be in a good position in terms of creating stability and leverage, meaning like, you know, still holding on to the side. Unfortunately, my man here can't, but you want to make sure you're holding in there, holding onto those handles, pulling yourself in, and then making sure we're engaging. We still don't want to be whipping the weight around. We want to make sure that we're actually controlling the weight up and controlling it down. Make these sets and reps harder before we start adding weight. Master the basics. Let's get into this exercise right now and go over some leg extension tips and cues.
Okay, so this is one of those machines that everybody makes small little mistakes, and I'm gonna correct these, and the Tren twins do the same thing. When we're on this machine, every single machine you do or use is gonna put you into the stretch part of that muscle group's position. I'm already in this machine, and guess what? This is a stretch part of the lift when it comes to quads. I wanna make sure that I finish here. I start and finish here. Most people are just getting in here and they kind of do this, and they're getting here, and they're stopping before they get in. Let the machine put you into that stretch position. It's very simple. It's gonna put you there anyway. What you wanna do is create tension on the way into that position. So when you're sitting in this machine, where do you wanna be with the back of the bench? Enough that you can come all the way back. Because if you're too far back, the back of your knee is gonna be too far onto this, and then it's gonna stop you from getting a proper stretch here. If you have a machine like this that's a little bit older and it's bottoming out, you easily put like a pad in front of your shins, and that's gonna create the more of the tension, which is super easy and super fun to do. But if you don't, just make sure we come all the way back regardless, right? Let it push you here, don't bypass. So when we're in this machine again, setting yourself up, pulling yourself into the bench, keeping your chest nice and tall. Toes are gonna be pointed towards our shins. We can go dorsal flex. We can go plantar flex as well too, but mostly just go dorsal flex, keep your toes curled up to your shins. And from here, tight core, lock yourself in, and then actually flex your quads. Don't just pull them up. I want you to actually flex your quads to the top, control it down, gets that stretch, drive again, right? And flex. Don't rely on the machine to make you flex your quads. For me to pull my leg up, I have to flex my quad. And I'm doing the exact same thing while just adding this pad and the weight to that movement. So from here, I'm just flexing the quad up, controlling it down. Flexing the quad up, controlling it down. And super simple to make it super hard, which is just do a 2-second negative. 1001, 1002, stretch for a second, repeat again. 1001, 1002, stretch to the bottom, 1001, 1002, stretch to the bottom. And that's it. And that will make this exercise that much harder and better for your optimal growth for your quads.
Very good here what they're doing. Again, they're intentional. I like the full range of motion. This speed, we could slow it down slightly, right? We could be a little more intentional about it. Again, these guys know what they're doing for their body. And my whole job here is to get you guys to kind of get an understanding of how your body works and how your body responds to getting the most out of each rep, each range of motion, each contraction, everything, so you can feel what you're doing. So you know what you're doing and you know how to make that feeling happen over and over again. Too many times I coach people who feel the set some of the time. They feel the rep some of the time. You want to feel every rep every single time, almost like a carpenter with a hammer and a nail. We want to be precise every single time, and we slow things down, we have a better overall muscle-mind connection. That's exactly what it's like for each rep. Precise, intentional, and optimal. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed this video guys. Now look, it's 2025 tomorrow. Let's make sure we're starting off on a good note. Hit the link description below guys, JONNISHREVE.com. Hop on a 50-minute call with me. Yes, it is actually me. When you pick up, it's a video call. You see me, it's me, it's not a hologram, it's not an app, it's not an AI, it's me in the flesh. And we go over your fitness goals and we see what we can achieve together. Hit the link in the description below. Anyway, until next time guys, you know how it is. Iron sharpens iron, progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.